Welcome, everyone, to attending our talk today on Eat Smart and Stay Sharp. It's all about nutrition strategies for a healthy brain. And I am so excited to be able to bring this presentation to everyone because I firmly believe knowledge is power. And what we're going to do is I'll just do a little bit of an opener about who we are. And then I'm going to pass things over to Christina, who will then pass it back to me for a little overview about what is dementia in case people are confused around that topic. And then we'll have Christina take over and share her wonderful wealth of knowledge. So those that may not know who I am, here we go. So these are our two presenters today, myself and Christina Wilton. So a little bit about me, in case you aren't familiar, there's a lot of people on the call that I recognize, but I've been in the senior care industry for over 30 years, 30 years now. I started my company when I first moved to BC in 2009. I came from Ontario. I worked in long-term care homes, and I worked as an executive director for an Alzheimer's society. Just before I moved to BC, and saw lots of gaps, and I wanted to make a difference and to help not only the frontline staff receive the education that I was collecting over the years, but also to help families on their journey, because I saw that there was lots of gaps for them in the community. And that's when I created the workshop, Cracking the Dementia Code, which then turned into a published book. And so I've had some wonderful experiences over the years of helping, but I just wanted to say that over the last 15 years with my business, I was also giving a talk on how to maintain a healthy brain. Some of you may have come to that. I know there's one lady here who has. And so with that talk, I don't go into much detail about one of the items, which is all around eating healthy. So today, we're going to go deeper on that topic because eating healthy is very important for the brain. And I met Christina back in January of this year, 2025, and I was blown away by her insights and her knowledge around healthy brain nutrition and supplements. And I just thought, you know what, we've got to connect. You've got so much knowledge to share, and I would like to do that with my audience and as well as the general public of whoever wants to sign up today. So I'm just going to give a little overview about Christina here. So she is the founder of Dragonfly Thrive Health Incorporated. And I just took a little bit from her website here, but I have a little bio I'm going to read. Christina has spent more than 18 years focused on body sciences, health, and nutrition, including a biology major at the University of Waterloo, 7 years in the fitness industry, and now 7 years focused on nutrition with her company and her work at Caresdale Pharmacy. Her passion for science is second only to her desire to create actionable steps. Christina's journey with celiac disease, raising 3 boys, and observing the health challenges among friends, families, and clients has provided her well-rounded perspective and understanding of how to make real changes in our real lives, and that we do not have to accept our fate and live with pain, disease, and aging. Simple adjustments will create profound changes. So I want to welcome Christina now.
Hi, thanks so much. I'll pull up slides afterwards, but because I think Karen's going to elaborate more on dementia itself. But yeah, she kind of got it there. Just when I get mired in the details sometimes, and I do love the science about nutrition and actually what's happening at the molecular level sometimes and why some things work and some things don't. But more than anything, I think you probably all can agree is sometimes we'll learn all this great information about something that we're like, yeah, I should do that. But then you walk away and think, what should I do next? And so I'm hoping that today with whatever we do discuss, you feel like informed and have a few marching orders to sort of say, in the next week, I want to try doing X and Y and see if I can help myself out. And then ideally we layer on habits, right? We don't change everything all at once. So that'll be kind of the goal today. And I think really we're just going to look at kind of what's possible change wise, like what can we actually do to take care of our brains, and can we undo some of the damage done? And spoiler alert, yes, we can. And then we'll kind of just cover nutrition itself, like what we're trying to do with our body and with our food. And then we'll look at some of the key nutrients that we do know are beneficial for the brain. And then at the end, try to kind of give you something like maybe a bit of a challenge to try for yourself, so that you put some of these like pieces of information in play. Yeah, so that will be kind of what we'll follow, but we'll start first and kind of understand what we're talking about, so we all are starting at the same point on dementia as a diagnosis, as a condition that people are experiencing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina. So I just wanted to say, if you can go to the chat box, there is a handout that was added in. It's a PDF. Unfortunately, I'm not able to upload a Word document for you. But this is the handout you can use, and you can download it. And if you want to print it later, or just take notes beside your handout as we go along, that's fine too. I just wanted people to be aware the handout is available. And I'm going to share my screen because, as Christina said, we're just going to do a little overview about what is dementia. And I like to talk about the definition from the World Health Organization. When I do talk about what is dementia, a lot of people are confused, and I have to say it's not your fault, because there is so many different definitions out there from different Alzheimer's Society chapters, as well as the media displays some things that are incorrect, where they should have replaced the word dementia for Alzheimer's disease. So sometimes we see dementia is a devastating disease, but really it's supposed to be Alzheimer's is a devastating disease, because dementia is known as a syndrome. And I'm just going to share with you, I'll show you my fist here, and to show you that when I'm talking about a syndrome, we're talking about symptoms that come together to form a syndrome. So quick example is when we talk about getting a common cold. When people get a cold, they get the symptoms, and I'm sure we all realize those, like sore throat, runny nose, coughing, headache, sneezing. When we have all those symptoms, we have the syndrome of a cold, common cold. In the case of dementia, dementia is a syndrome, and I'm going to share some of those common symptoms in just a moment. But the World Health Organization states that dementia is a syndrome that can be caused by a number of diseases which over time destroy nerve cells and damage the brain, typically leading to deterioration in cognitive function. For example, the ability to process thought. Beyond what is expected from the usual consequences of biological aging. Basically, this is not supposed to be normal part of aging. So just checking the chat, make sure. I don't see the handout. Okay. We'll definitely be mailing the handout to everyone. I'm not sure where it went to, but should have gone to everyone. And so this is
once I get started, you might be able to add it as a upload here in the chat for people if they want to download it while we're chatting.
Yeah, so I've just uploaded it again.
Perfect.
But thanks for sharing that. So this is the definition of dementia. Dementia itself is not a disease. And so some of the common symptoms that make up the syndrome of dementia, and we're well aware of memory impairment. But however, there's also not only memory of short-term and long-term that are impaired in the brain, but also thinking impairment of thinking how to problem solve, how to do things and follow steps and instructions. Other examples, could be just, how do I get from point A to point B? I can't remember how to go there. But I won't be able to have a lot of time to give more examples, but the other common symptom we see is judgment problems. And a person will have difficulties making the right choices that are safe, or maybe they're making choices that are inappropriate, or they're saying things that are inappropriate that they would never say in public. And now they're using different words. They're saying things that are rude to the waitress, sexual inappropriateness. There's things like that that can happen that we may start to see as a symptom. Communication problems, where they're having difficulties getting out their full sentence, they're having difficulties comprehending what you're saying. But just know that the tip of the tongue, that word that it's right there, that could be normal part of aging. But when there is other symptoms of really having difficulties with sharing an entire sentence, that is where we start. And then when we also see these symptoms happening to an individual on a regular basis, we have to keep that in mind, ongoing, regular basis. And the last symptom that I'm sharing here is personality changes. So let's just say a person used to be so calm and, quiet. Now they may be a little bit different. They're more agitated and restless and they're impatient. There's been so many stories of people whose personality really has changed and they're not the same anymore. So when we see all these symptoms, as mentioned, on a regular, consistent basis with someone when they never used to show these symptoms, this is where we really want to go look into it, go deeper to figure out what is happening for this person. We want to know what is causing their dementia symptoms. And why I say that is because on this slide is just a representation of potential items that have those symptoms of dementia inside that can be treated, such as depression, thyroid conditions, vitamin B12 deficiencies. And I can go on, but unfortunately, there has been people who've been misdiagnosed as having Alzheimer's disease when it was something that was treatable. And I've got examples, and we know of Lyme disease, for example. There's people who've had misdiagnosis, like Chris Christopherson, the famous songwriter and singer, who they said he had Alzheimer's, but it was Lyme disease, and they were able to treat that and bring him back his quality of life. So just reminding people, when we see the dementia symptoms, investigate, because it may be something that is non-curable at this time, but know that those types of non-curable types of dementia also have other symptoms that go with it, but the symptoms of dementia will also notice with each of these. And so today, as we go through the discussion, know that some of these types of dementia, the non-curable, we can't cure it at this time, but there are modifiable risk factors that we could do to help ourselves and our future and our brain. So I'm going to now pass things over to Christina, who's going to talk more about what we can do as far as modifiable risk factors with what we put in our bodies, what we eat. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you. I want to be able to cover a fair bit of information, probably more than we could even sneak into today. So I'm going to jump right into the slides so we can get into it here. So can we see my slides? Okay. Now I just want to close one little window here. So as we were talking about, I had mentioned earlier, just more than anything, I want to be able to sell some hope here. It's not too late. We talk about nutrition. We'll talk about the real harm and eating the wrong things and what we should be focusing on. And then a bit of a challenge for you to try and take this home and put this into play. So she'd already given you the bio. Like she said, I've been into the biosciences for a while, had my own journey with autoimmune disease, feeding small humans, managing lots of different styles of diets, everywhere from plant-based, which is how I eat, to living with a proper carnivore. And yeah, so it's a lot going on. And so I get the chance to try and see how different diets happen. And then I can speak from the point of view as, single mom, 3 kids, 2 jobs. I appreciate how hard it is to make changes to food and lifestyle when we're just barely getting through our day. So the idea of trying to do something different than we're used to, it's just overwhelming and sometimes not feasible. So what I do find in the job I do, I really enjoy being able to do a little hand holding and narrow it down and see what things could we do that's going to pack the most punch, and then give you the opportunity to actually employ new habits and actually see something through so that it becomes part of your new normal, as opposed to something you have to think about and wrestle with. So, gosh, I love this lady. Like, look at her. Old is the new young. And that's anything I want to be able to tell you is that as much as some of the things we've been doing in our life can play into the current state of health we're experiencing now, there is a lot that can be done to undo damage done, to do that recovery and repair that your body so desperately wants to do. And if we just get out of our own way, we can help with that. And in particular with the brain, I think most of us in the room are in the age group where we're still told some time ago that the brain is stuck where it is. You got the number of neurons you got, and they slowly die off over the course of your life, and that was it, right? The brain was set. And we had the idea, like we joke if you had a beer, that how many brain cells did you kill today, right? I don't know if anybody else heard that, but that's what I had always heard. We know now that the brain has more plasticity, as in malleability, changing form, than we used to think. And nerves can recover, nerves can grow and meet new places again. New connections can be made. So, like, we can still do this. The brain as an organ itself is fat. It's mostly structurally fat. So when we think about how we feed it, instinctively we would think, oh, I want to feed it fat. And while yes, you do, we already have no trouble finding the fat and building the brain tissue that we need from the fat that's in our body. So we don't technically need to eat the fat to keep it there, though there are some fats that are good, helpful ones to use. But really, to fuel it, it does fuel itself with carbohydrates. It's a hot debated topic, but the brain is fueled by carbs. It gets its energy by carbs. And then there's ketone bodies that come in play as well, which is just another form of molecule, but starts with carbs. But more than anything, looking at this very like bright and happy, mature woman here in the picture, what I do want to tell you is when it comes to brain health, we don't feel pain in our brain the way we feel pain in the rest of our body. And we don't always have these like really clear symptoms that are so brain specific. And yeah, we get headaches and such. We get foggy brain or, can't think clearly. Those are bigger symptoms of a brain that's struggling than we realize. But there are other symptoms in your body that I really want to hone in on because we can't overlook them. And that's the other symptoms we experience systemically. So as time passes and we've had a few more rotations around the sun and more wear and tear on the body, of course, we are finding that things change. And one of those things can be higher triglycerides floating around in your blood, raised cholesterol, maybe increased blood pressure, blood sugar that's dysregulated. And so some of you may have had conversations with your practitioner, giving you the finger waggle and telling you that your numbers are skewed. May even have gone so far as to medicate some of these conditions to help ensure that your numbers are in a healthy place. Take those as a nice little warning that things are out of whack and that we've gotten things out of queue. And what I want to remind you, and this is a no blame, no shame, but if you do everything the same that you're currently doing and continue living your life the same way, these symptoms won't accidentally fix themselves. And those medications you're given are only forcing the situation down. It's actually not undoing the reason for elevated triglycerides, pardon me, elevated cholesterol, increased blood pressure. It's not going to undo those things if you keep doing exactly the same and living life the same way. It's forcing the issue down, but the same habits are going to keep that climb, and then they're going to have to medicate more to tamp these things down. And I'll tell you, if your heart and your arteries there are already getting clogged, so too are the arteries in your brain. So we have choices. We can let the doctor prescribe the meds, and heck, we gotta. Sometimes we really do need that intervention to help get things in check. But rest assured, we have options. And so even the things that we've done that got us maybe where we shouldn't be, the good news is we kind of quote unquote did this to ourselves. We can also fix this for ourselves. And that should hopefully make you feel empowered and give you some sense of hope that you don't have to just accept your fate, that this is your lot in life. You now have high cholesterol, or you are now diabetic, right? And diabetes is one of these key ones that plays specifically into the Alzheimer's side of things. So as Karen alluded to, Alzheimer's is the actual disease that can happen that then will promote dementia and these changes in our brain function. And Alzheimer's, as we also know, is not curable, but boy, we sure can temper the rate of its progression, or the symptoms that we're experiencing when it is in play. So I want to sell hopefulness. I want to make sure that you're like buying into this, that small things make big changes. And it's just like compound interest in your bank account. When you layer on new little changes, you get compound returns, and you'll get to see these benefits systemically, and everything that helps your heart and I'm sorry, maybe I'm cracking up. It says unstable, but let me know if you're not hearing me well. But things that are helping your heart, things that help your joints, things that's making your body feel better is helping your brain, which is quietly suffering in the background. And when it comes to diabetes and blood sugar in particular, the damage that can be done by the sugars circulating in the blood that aren't being put away into the cells as they should. But blood sugar is scary, blood sugar damaging, and damaged arteries, clogged arteries from cholesterol, increased blood pressure means that something is not getting fed. So it's often the cells at the extremities. When it comes to the blood sugar situation, the little arteries are not making it to other places. And it's definitely small arteries in the brain. So our nutrition is going to help to keep in check those cholesterol levels. It's going to keep in check the inflammation and damage in the body. And it'll definitely help us to regulate our blood sugar. We know that. But it's not quite as simple as in just quit eating sugar. And it's not as simple as just go and lose 15 pounds. We do want to be careful about the food choices we make on an ongoing basis. And so I'm going to kind of graze through some of these topics here. And if we do have an opportunity to meet again and maybe do some ongoing conversations about nutrition, we can parse these topics into different sections so we can delve a little deeper, because some of us really want to understand the why, so we really buy into it and feel like we feel that motivation to make the change. And when we are talking about nutrients, just to make sure we're all speaking about the same thing, the macronutrients you hear people talk about, those are the key big pieces in our food: the carbohydrates looking like sugars, the fat, which we all know, the protein, which is structural and part of our hormones and messaging, and fiber. I would consider a macronutrient because it's so essential, and it is a larger form item that we've consumed, and it has to be there to clear the pipes, not just the intestines, but also the pipes like our cardiovascular system. The micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, that's all the gajillion goodness that you find in fruits and veggies, the things that give it color and flavor. And then water, I would treat as a micronutrient as well. So we'll skip past this. We're not going to get into carbohydrates and what it makes, but know that your brain eats carbohydrates as food. We'll work our way into the fats here. And I do want to remind you that while we're talking about fat and that the brain is fat structurally, it's not a fat storage location. It's not storing the fat for energy. But we do use fat for insulation in relation to the brain and insulation of the nerves. So just like you think about the wires in your house and how those wires will have an insulating cover on them, or a plastic, right, that the copper wires are inside of, we need our nerves to be well insulated too. They need to have that myelin sheath wrapped around them to ensure that messages get a nice clear line to their destination, and to make sure that messages don't cross over or get diluted on the way there. So same if you had a uncovered wire in your house, you might get some sparking and arcing and things could cause problems. It's similar, right? We need that. And the fat is also a messenger for us. So it's a backbone for a lot of our hormones, which regulate so many body processes, our mood, and of course our sex hormones as well. Protein, We're always talking about whether or not we're getting enough. Generally, as a population, I'll tell you we are. So I don't want you to obsess over protein. I know as we age, we talk about increasing protein, and yes, that is a point of concern. But as a rule, in the Western society, we get plenty of protein in our diet. And you're really kind of looking for that 0.8 grams per kilo. I know that's metric, and most of us here, we're confused. We're half metric, half imperial, but it's going to roughly equal about 40 to 50 grams a day for a woman, 50 to 80 grams a day for a man. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is plenty. And too much protein will cause trouble for the kidneys and can also be cancer promoting in a lot of cases as well. So we have to be mindful about how, or the quality of the protein we get. So it's for our structure, enzymes, which are doing all the chemical reactions in our body, transporting things around the body for us and messaging. And then, yes, sometimes we use protein for energy. Vitamins, we're going to talk a little bit about some key ones here. We'll sneak past it, but the key vitamins, actually, I will elaborate on it, that the key vitamins that I do want you all to be probably supplementing, because even if you're doing your very best with your nutrition and it's been really dialed in, typically as a supplement, we do need to do our vitamin D3. Can't really get around that. We want to use our B12. Whether you're an omnivore or plant-based, doesn't matter. We need that for that brain messaging as well, and for the nerve conductivity. And we're looking at about 1,000 micrograms a day, especially if you're 65 plus, just take 1,000 a day. Sublingual is best. We want it to mix with our saliva. It'll do a little conversion in your mouth, and it's better taken up there versus if you just take a B12 in a capsule that hits your stomach, you may or may not get that B12 absorption to the level you want. So sublingual is great. And the quality of a B12, it's one of those few vitamins out there that quality doesn't matter so much. So you can get the affordable, whatever version, cheapest chips. Off you go, have your B12. And then the other one would be omega-3s. So it's not a vitamin, that's in the fats, but that one we probably will want to supplement with, because it's not that we're not getting omega-3s in our diet, it's that we're usually getting too much omega-6. So there's two different kinds of essential fats, meaning that we won't make them ourselves. We're going to need to consume them. We have to ingest them to get them. And whenever we're having things that are processed, typically if we're eating out at restaurants, a lot of things that are prepackaged for us, the oils and such that they're using, they usually are going to use an affordable one. And that's going to often be the vegetable and seed oils. And those are really high in omega-6s. And omega-6s are good for us. And they're pro-inflammatory. Sounds counterintuitive, but we want inflammation when we need to fix something. So if we've had an injury, if there's an area of the body that needs support, we want to light a little fire there, as it were, to draw blood in, to bring nutrients in, to get the body to react, show up, and sort things out. What we don't want is too much of that. And then omega-3 does exactly the opposite. It's coming in to cool things off, wind things down, and sort of be that salve that like wipes over the area now and says, okay, everybody, everything's going to be fine. So it's that calming fat. And the ratio of those two should be about 1-to-1 in our diet, or 2-to-1. So at most you want like 2-to-1 omega-6 to every omega-3 that we're consuming. But the reality is, in a Western diet, if you're eating fairly typically, it's about 20-to-1. That's how skewed it is. We just have too many omega-6s. And I know we're all here and we're doing our best, and you guys are keener, so maybe most of you are actually preparing your foods at home and there's plenty of veggies on your plate, and et cetera, et cetera.
No.
But if we're eating any packaged food, if we're dining out, if anything's been made for us, we may be getting these numbers pretty skewed. And when you do think omega-6s, omega-3s, there are the people start asking questions about EFA, DHA, ALA, right? These are different forms of the omega-3s, and they're just means where their attachments are, right? And they'll do sort of different jobs. ALA is going to come from your plant foods, and it will convert to DHA and EPA. So it's going to go through a little dance and it's going to become these other things. Its efficiency of turning into DHA is not so great, about 5 to 10%. That doesn't mean that we have to take a supplemental DHA. We can eat our ALA and get there. As long as your body is running like a good well-oiled machine, oiled from all the fats. If it's running well, then you're probably making those conversions no problem. That 5 to 10% conversion rate's probably fine. I said a lot of probablys and maybes in that statement there. So the point being, probably not that efficient. So it's nice to add some DHA. Yes, you can get it from fish. So that's why some people do choose to eat fish. And I just caution that because you would want to be eating it at least twice a week to get a sufficient amount. Think salmon and herring, those like cold water fish. The caveat here is that the fish we're eating, I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer, but the fish we're eating now does come with a bunch of other stuff we don't need anymore. The waters are polluted. They are coming in with heavy metals, more toxins, microplastics, etc. And we're overfishing generally. So it's maybe not necessarily the most ideal thing for our ecological system to be fishing the way we are. So when we get a supplemental one, we control that fishing situation because they can often use algae, or if they're fishing for kind of the quote unquote unwanted fish, the small fish. They're fishing in alongside other fishing. So they're not having to like go and get the big fish out of the water. So the next part that's good about supplementing is then they go through a lot of cleaning process. So the fish we get can be polluted and they're allowed to feed it to us, but a supplement has to go through all kinds of testing to be blessed and allowed on the shelf and have proven its efficacy and safety. So if you do a supplemental omega-3 to get yourself there, you're probably going to take away the other danger. And with that, that's into the minerals. With the supplements, if you're trying to figure out the number, and I don't think I have it written down per se, but you can jot this down, that 1 to 2 grams of total omega fats is a great goal. So when you're looking at the supplement, it might say some EPA, some DHA. Don't overthink it. Sure, look for high DHA because we're talking brain health specifically here. EPA is a little bit more geared towards joint pain and such. It's still going to be useful. So, and then you want the total amount of omegas in that bottle to hopefully be 1 to 2 grams of that you're going to get in a day. And reality is, if it's a good supplement, you're probably taking 2 to 4 capsules. So that's why if you can handle it, a liquid omega is really just a lot more efficient. A teaspoon usually gets you there. And a great brand I do love and trust that's Canadian made here out in Markham, Ontario is Aqua Omega. So I'm going to tout them because I love the care they're taking. I love how high concentration it is. I like the attention they put to where they're fishing. And they even go well above the required standards to make sure that they're giving you something nice and clean. And they have an excellent plant-based one as well, if you want to kind of cut out the middleman and skip the fish, as it were, because the fish are getting their omega-3s from the algae they eat. So we can too, right? So that's all I'm going to say about omega-3s right now. We'll revisit it a little bit when we talk about the food. Minerals, we're just generally getting that from our dark greens and our veggies. We're getting a little bit in our fruits as well. And we just want a lot of variety. Sometimes there's conversations about whether or not we need less of sodium or more of potassium. Magnesium we're often depleted on. When it comes to brain health, we don't necessarily have to focus on magnesium, but I will say that having a magnesium supplement is shown time and time again, and I see it on a daily basis with customers here, that they are having just a little bit more of a sense of calm, generally a better sleep, more relaxed, legs so they're not cramping at night, so they'll be able to fall asleep, and just being able to tap into their parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest state. So if that anxiety is part of your story or feeling a little overwhelmed by things, sometimes it's as simple as starting with some magnesium and see how you feel. And if it doesn't get you there, then we'll try plan B or C. It's all about balance. So while I got into nitty gritty there about vitamins, and we're going to revisit them here, and I'm about to chat a little bit more about the specific foods, I don't want you to get mired in the details and the numbers and the did I get the exact ratio? And should I be using a nutrition app to check my portions, etc.? Sometimes that's nice to give you a real sense of where you're at and if you're really skewed. But overall, variety and just making sure you keep trying to put whole foods on your plate is going to find that balance for you. Only thing when it comes to how to eat, I'm not going to get into the digestion, but look at her. She's looking at you and she's reminding you to chew your food. Because I can tell you about all the nutrition and all the right foods to eat, but if you just scarf it down and like hoover it into your mouth and it barely touches the teeth, you're not going to get very much of that nutrition. And too many of us are already having enough trouble with our digestion and complaining of bloating, gas, discomfort, and maybe upset bowel movements. It starts in your mouth, my lovelies. It really does. And beyond the idea of the fact that you want to masticate it and make it small, what happens in your mouth is a whole like symphony, a whole like dance choreography of things going on. So it starts with the enzymes that are in your saliva. They're going to be breaking down that food, the salivary amylase, and about 50% of your carbohydrate digestion. So that's your breads and flours and sugars and fruits and everything. It's going to start in the mouth. So if you don't give stuff time to happen in there, some of that carbohydrate digestion is not really going to happen. Second to that is the protein that's in whatever food you're eating, and there's protein everywhere. It's in your broccoli and everything. You're going to find protein everywhere. Protein is a more complicated molecule to digest. A lot of that's going to happen in the stomach, requiring a certain amount of stomach acid and very specific enzymes that come in and chop it into little pieces. Every protein has a different form, and different enzymes are required to go and chop it into pieces. Just like you need a specific Allen key to build that piece of IKEA furniture. And have you ever had the wrong Allen key and tried to like put something together? It's not going to work. So the food has to be in your mouth long enough for the rest of your digestive tract to get the message of what's on the plate. And if you just go and scarf it down and thump, it lands in your stomach. Have you ever had that feeling where the meal's just sitting there like a lump? Maybe you scarfed it down too quickly and everything was scrambling around to catch up and like, hey, everybody, we need the Allen key number 3 and 6 number 7s to break this dinner down. Let it marinate in your mouth. Let it hang out. Create a little smoothie. Break everything down. Help break down those big pieces into little pieces so you increase the surface area available for those enzymes to get at so that everything lines up and your digestion is ready and prepared. And then you're going to get more fulsome and complete digestion. If you just do that thing, if you do nothing else after today but chew your food, you're going to improve your experience at dinner time tonight. You're going to slow yourself down. You're going to enjoy things. You're going to be more relaxed as you eat. You may eat less because you'll have more time to have that sense of satiety. You're going to feel like you actually got enough and that you don't need to go back for seconds and thirds because you need a little time for your body to get the message, oh, hey, we got enough. So calm down, stop asking for more food, right? So look at her eyes. Look at her. Just chew your food. We're going to skip past the digestion today, though I'm talking about this, but it's all external, what goes in the mouth. It's not really part of your body until it's absorbed past the intestinal walls, past the stomach wall. Otherwise, it's external. It goes in one end and out the other, and it's never really a part of you unless it gets absorbed. So chew your food. In the stomach, we need the pH to be nice and high so we can break down the food, get to the nutrition that's going to feed our brain. That's where the enzymes are, and we're building chyme. Your gallbladder is going to help with the fat digestion. Pancreas is pumping out more enzymes, insulin included, which is a hormone, and it's going to be helping with making sure the carbohydrates are broken down. The liver is going to clean it all up, and it's going to take all the messages we get from our food. And that's really a key thing, is what we put in our mouth every day is a message to our body and a tool. So when we eat the wrong thing, we may be giving ourselves a wrong message, and we're giving ourselves something to do as opposed to something that helps. So if we're eating something that's not actually food or something that's actually toxic, like imbibing, having a glass of wine or a beer, very enjoyable, but it's a job. It's something your body now needs to do. It's got to clean it up. So the liver is the one that's doing that job. Small intestines, things travel down, absorption happens. Large intestine, colon's doing its job. It's gleaning the last bit of nutrition. And in there is our microbiome doing a beautiful dance, creating a lot of messages that speak directly back to the brain via the vagus nerve. And it's telling our body what we should do next. We like to think we're running the show, but it's really the gajillion bugs in there that are puppeteering a lot of what we do and telling us when to eat again and what hormones to make, et cetera, et cetera. I could talk endlessly about poop, and if you are not having fabulous poops, please let me know. Don't suffer in silence. If I could just have everybody have a great start to their day, I would love to do that one thing alone. So, the conversation you maybe never do actually have with your friends. I'm your gal. Come on in, see me at the pharmacy, give me a call. Let's talk poop. Let's get it happening. We won't talk about that today, but there's a goal in mind. The what not to eat and the real risks, it's not even always as bad as this. This is obvious. Of course, we know we're not supposed to tuck into a pizza 4 times a week, right? We know that, chicken nuggets are barely food. And I'm not saying you never should ever enjoy or imbibe or have these guilty pleasures, as it were. But be mindful that whenever you do, it's not even just that it's not good nutrition, it's actually anti-nutrition. It's so much effort for your body to clear up the stuff that was unnecessary, that was not useful, or is too refined. So when something is too refined, it hits us like a Mack truck, and it was never, ever supposed to be received in our body in that form. It is not close to nature anymore. And so while we are supposed to get a nice complicated piece of food like an apple, which is full of the fiber and nutrition and vitamins, etc., all bound up in a beautiful matrix. Yeah, there's sugar in there, but it's all tied up in the fiber. In there, chewing required, you go slow, the fiber in there is creating a bulking feeling. Everything's going to be modulated and broken down in time as it travels along the digestive tract. But if you have a glass of apple juice, and even if they fortified it with the vitamins to match, and even when they add the fiber back in manually with a fiber powder, when they monitor people having the apple versus a nutrient matching apple juice, so the same macros are there, same vitamins, the response in the body is totally different because that apple juice hits the stomach, the sugar's already free and available, and your body just goes, and then all of a sudden it's circulating way faster than it ever should have, versus having the apple and it's slowly breaking down, and it's working its way to the intestines, and really importantly, it's making its way to the microbiome and the bugs there. When we're doing it in pieces and trying to paste it back together, as the egotistical humans we are, we're like, we can do better than Mother Nature, and we break things down into little pieces and paste it all back together and think it's going to be a superfood. We just can't do it better. So whole foods all the time. Pleasure traps is that idea that these unnatural foods, these sort of pasted together things that we're enjoying, have this real impact on us. And the whole time we're out there is feeding ourselves. Remember that we are still just one more animal on the planet, and yes, we're very unique in the way we are as humans, but we do have biological needs, which is to stay alive. And we're always seeking that nutrition. We got to protect ourselves, stay alive. I think Karen and I were talking about that, right? That we always want to eat, sleep, and poop. I can't remember if that was one that it was, but it's all this goal is to keep ourselves alive. And so when we're out there trying to take care of ourselves, you've felt yourself in that kind of motivational triad. You've got the bowl of chips, you've got something to do, you're comfy on the couch. You're just going to tuck into it and keep on going. And you're going to see the bottom of that bowl in moments, and you look and think, did I really just finish that? Right? It really does happen. And it's because of what you're getting in that food. When we're eating whole foods and it's received in that beautiful matrix that I was talking about, and it's being modulated by that time, if we were to have a pound of leafy greens, you're going to get 100 calories. Now, a pound of leafy greens, honestly, you're not a cow. You can't sit there and masticate your food forever and just chew your cud. or a pound of fruit for that matter. But look how few calories are there. Even meat is still only 850. And if we were out and hunters and gatherers, we wouldn't get meat that often. On occasion, we would have hunted and had a success and we would all partake and we'd be like, heck yeah, look at this. And you'd feel that feeling because you're like, great, I got what I needed. And when we're having fruit, for example, and it's really ripe and it's extra sweet, our brain has this beautiful ability to say, hey, that was great. It had lots of calories too. It's going to give me enough fuel to keep going until I find the next serving of food. And so we've got this biological reaction that says a dopamine hit, and it says, hey, we should eat some more of that. That was good. If we can do that again, let's do that again. So we'll have another piece of ripe fruit while we have that option, and on and on. Hits the dopamine receptor. We get a reinforced that was a good idea. I think many of you have heard this. But then we're no longer out in the forest trying to find the next bush of berries and plucking them off and yum, 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 which you're never going to get too many of. We have a grocery store and it's an endless amount of food available to us. So regardless of what the food is, and as much as we can be intellectual about it and be aware, you eat a slice of cheese, that's power packed. And that slice of cheese, your body gets a big dopamine hit, especially cheese, because it has something in there called casomorphines. And the key word there was morphine. It's also hitting other receptors that really have that addictive quality for us. And we're like, oh yeah, that was the stuff. And of course, you're going to take a second, third, or fourth slice. You may go back to the fridge and cut a few more slices off the block, right? So potato chips gets worse because they add the oils in, and chocolate, less chocolate. And chocolate is a health food, just so you know. But we have to be so mindful of its hit with the calories. And then you look all the way down the end there, 500 calories if you're having that oil or fat, right? How can we win against this? That's the problem. So the catch here is we've got to be mindful of it, and the none is easier than some is the motto I like to have, because the moment you have some potato chips, you're going to get that dopamine cue to have more. And if you've really been wrestling with it, none is easier than some. It's really the way to go. And every time you put whole foods on your plate, this won't even become an issue. And you'll develop that palate to come back to it. So we'll work back the dopamine pleasures. You got to cut out the calorie-rich and processed food and keep what we're going to eat instead. Whole foods all the time, every day. And if you're not sure how, we can talk about it. And when we're looking for very specific whole foods to focus on, specific to your brain, that's going to bring in those key nutrients that I was talking about. And we'll even bring in other things like choline, which is brain supportive, other B vitamins besides B12. That's going to be very supportive. Iron, and then extra fiber to clean the pipes. If you can try and most days find versions of these, or at least a few times a week, to get into the leafy greens, for the beans, the lentils, right? The nuts and seeds, berries for the antioxidants, the supplements that say, lutein and astaxanthin and all that stuff for blueberries and eye health. Time and again, we have tested those high concentration, high dose vitamins in a bottle against a blueberry. They pale in comparison. So while I'm not saying we should never use supplements, but they are supplements. They are supposed to supplement your diet. They're not supposed to replace the food. So lean on Mother Nature first and fill in some gaps with your supplements. Your nuts and seeds are going to bring in great fats, great minerals, omega-3s in there too. Herbs and spices, just the sprinkles. Forgo the salt and pull out the oregano. Get the turmeric in there for the anti-inflammatory properties, the high antioxidants. So much power is packed in that quarter teaspoon and that little sprinkle. So don't discount it just because it's such a little amount. They're full of phytonutrients and things. So spice away, add some flavor, zhuzh it up. Your cruciferous vegetables are your broccoli, cabbage, cauliflowers, kale, mustard. Those are the ones that we want to be making sure we get on the daily as well, for the sulforaphanes that are in there. So outside of the other greens. Cruciferous vegetables are a whole category onto themselves because of what they offer. And then whole grains. These are the carbohydrates I love, full of B vitamins, full of fiber, and going to help also with that satiety and feeling full. And then the ninth thing, and that narrow 9, which I was referring to, that was from doctors Dean and Aisha Sherazai. They do a program on foodnetwork.com or foodrevolution.com, and they do a really lovely one on brain health. And they had pulled that cute little neuro 9 list, and I couldn't do it better. So I just plagiarize, as it were, and give them the credit because they got it right. And when they're talking about tea, the best one for you for sure is to try and get a cup of green tea a day. That EGCG in there, the Epico Gallica something, it's a big long thing. It is so powerful as an antioxidant. And time again, we've shown how well it helps with moderating our appetite and the antioxidants that are in there as well. Black, white, and oolong tea also helpful. So if you're just really never going to drink green tea, drink tea. Get into it and watch the sugars and milks and such. As we're trying to pick these foods, and if you're sitting there thinking not too interested, I want you to just come at your meals over the next little while as you're picking your foods and trying to put some veggies on your plate you haven't had in a while, and come at it from the idea of, I wonder how this will taste, versus like, oh man, I got to eat my kale. Just be like, I wonder if this kale will taste better today. I wonder if what it's going to feel like, and think about it. Is this something I have to chew longer? And start asking yourself those questions versus debating whether or not you're going to enjoy it. And as you get curious about the food and sit there and mull over, wonder what I'm getting from this food today, you're going to stop questioning whether or not you actually quote unquote enjoy it. And you're going to start to be showing up for the nutrition for what it's offering you. And that is its own kind of joy. And I promise you the palate and your desire for these things will follow. Some foods you may not ever try, but as best as you can, keep jumping in there and try something new. Not 7 new things in one day, but just this week, try one vegetable you haven't tried in a while. Pull out a rutabaga. See what happens. Look for a recipe and go with it. Try something again that you may have said, I don't like X. We get set in our ways, but try again. I do this with teens a lot. And it's really interesting one because they've said no, no, no for so long. Getting them to try it again. And the yeah buts. Like, yeah, but I can't eat X, Y, or Z, a food that's always bothered you. Sometimes that's not always a given for the rest of your life. Some of those intolerances or sensitivities will move on. And if they're hanging on, we can have another conversation because maybe we can work past that. Plan ahead to set yourself up for success, whether it's one new recipe a week or getting things prepped ahead of time. And then try to put color on your plate. All about the balance. I know I'm blazing through the end here, but one of the challenges I wanted to try for you to try this week is if you don't overthink the individual ingredients, but look for that variety. And above all else, making sure there's more plants on your plate, because meat's barely getting most of the stuff we need there. Meat's structural, protein, whatever, but most of the goodness we're looking for is it's going to be all found in your plants. So try and see if you could, over the course of the next week, keep a little diary of the different plants you eat. That would be any version of vegetable, fruit, good whole grains, spices. I'll give you credit for spices as well, and even tea. And different varieties count as well. So if you have one kind of apple, like a Fuji apple, and then you have a Granny Smith, that's 2 different plants for the week. So you get to keep your little tally and you get to give yourself a tick mark for more than one. And I do have a little Tiny Earl here. I think it's on here, Tiny Earl or tinyurl.com. And if you put 30 plant challenge, if you type that into your browser, it'll bring up this little spreadsheet for you to give you suggestions of what would count as a serving, and see if you can follow the second tab here that says your tally, and see if you can give yourself credit and say, okay, I had something new, and you can just clear this out. I left in some foods as an example, and see if you can give yourself credit for trying some things. Here we're killing it. We're in the groove. We've done a super job. And see if you can have the 30 different things for the week. That variety, without overthinking anything else, is going to ensure you get all the ingredients you need or nutrition you need. It's going to feed your microbiome. It's going to bring the body back to life. It's going to unclog the pipes so that the brain is thinking clearly and all the messages are making it through. Boy, there's about 16 other things I would have liked to lean on, but I think as a whole, we need to be able to keep going here. How can I get out of here? Oh, there we go. Let me go over. If you want to continue the conversation with me, if I grazed over something and you really want to delve deeper, hopefully we're going to be able to have some follow-up workshops where we could offer these parsed out in pieces. But you can reach me directly to have a conversation. Just email me or just jump into my calendar. And it's, again, that tinyurl.com. And if you /dragonfly-chat, it will bring you to a calendar where I just have like little time slots. You can just jump in and book 15 minutes to ask me a few key questions for yourself. We don't always need to hire a coach, as it were. We just need to clarify a few things. And I'm always here for those questions. Visit me at Carisdale Pharmacy. I'm on the floor almost every day to pull the right thing off the shelf if we're going to try supplements to help us get there. And then as the coaching, I'm going to focus on your digestion and your hormones and your joint pain and help keep you running so that you have a clear head and more presence for the years ahead of you. Now we could probably get into some questions there. That little kitten cat in there, that's Misty. She's hiding behind the kale looking at me, reminding me to eat my greens. So,
It's amazing, Christina.
Behind?
Well, you've got, like I said, a wealth of knowledge. It's unreal when I met you, and there's far more information that you shared than I ever expected today. There's a lot. So I'm glad we have this recorded. Now, I'm going to share in the chat those two URLs, your dragonflythrive.com, but the other one, again, was it tinyurl.plantchallenge?
It's plant.com and then /30 plant challenge. Not so fun. I did that again with the teens before and tried to get them to go home. And I actually got messages from their parents saying, "Why did my son ask for an apple after dinner?" It's like, because his classmates and him are all trying to see if they can eat 30 different things, like some Brazil nuts and I brought some like dried cranberries, anything you can think of to try and challenge yourself to just have that variety. 30 plant challenge.
Okay, so I don't think I have it right in the URL because I went to look.
I can type it in for you.
Oh, if you can type that in, that would be great. Put it in the chat. I just have your email there or your website showing. But we're going to stop the recording now because I'm worried that people may not want to ask questions and share. But to know that they could reach out to either of us for any questions about whether it's nutrition or dementia care and dementia support for families. And if you are interested in the handout and you're watching this as a recording, please feel free to reach out to maybe my website, dementiasolutions.ca. You can find our contact form and we will email you the handout. But I do want to say, please stay on for those here for questions. But thank you so much, Christina Wilton, for your amazing information about our brain health. And you really reminded me today to not eat so quickly at my desk and not chew my food is what I'm typically doing. So I'm going to take a moment to slow down and chew. And I think that's very important, and trying to learn to implement more of the healthy greens and trying different things that are good for my brain health each day. So thank you for inspiring me to take action.
Oh, okay. Talking about veggies. So with the frozen veggies, those would be a great option as well in lieu of being able to get it fresh, because of the fact, again, that they're catching it right at that moment. And I do like frozen because they're not just freezing it the way you and I would, where it's going to go through that slow process of the water turning into an ice crystal, which breaks the cells, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a little bit of breakdown there. They're doing do that flash freezing, and it tends to keep the food more intact. So yes, a little bit of nutrition or nutrient might be lost in that process of the freezing, but not as much as you'd think. There's a little bit of life lost. And so as a holistic nutritionist, we do sometimes talk into sort of the energetic quality of the food. So yeah, it's not as alive as it once was. But hey, get those veggies in you. And if it's going to be frozen spinach, please do that. If it's going to be a frozen butternut squash, oh man, butternut squash can be such a headache to manage. And I just want to make a good risotto in a hurry. I'll pull out the frozen butternut squash. The squash is in you. So yeah, go ahead with the frozen and enjoy that as well.
There's a question in the chat that came to me. Ginkgo biloba, is it good for memory?
Yeah, it is actually. It's one of those herbs out there that we do have some studies to show the support. There's real efficacy there. Off the top of my head, I feel like there are some caveats there to when you can use it that may or may not have to do with blood thinners. So I'd want to just double check that before you do. But yes, ginkgo biloba does help with brain. There's not a lot of supplements that we know truly help the brain, like kind of give you that optimal performance, as it were. We're seeing some great things with Bacopa, Bacopa. So Bacopa can be helpful. Lion's mane is as an adaptogen, can often help with our memory and cognition. That's from the mushroom family. It's a fungus. And so that's sort of helping by way of modulating hormone response. So that's helping with our memory, kind of calming us down a little bit. Ginkgo biloba, and then anything that's helping blood sugar. So when people are using berberine as something to help with blood sugar, that can also be helpful for just general brain health. Oh, there's probably more, but that's, yeah. ALA, like alpha lipoic acid, that one's a good one. Sometimes we supplement with choline. And there is one out there called phosphatidylserine. So in the amino acid profile. So phosphatidylserine, sometimes you'll see it called PSP. That one seems to actually help with memory when you take it supplementally. It takes a few weeks to do it, and it's not like it's profound, but there's more studies. We're starting to get some more robust studies, larger sample bodies, more of that double blind, et cetera, making sure that it's robust, the results, but the PSP seems to be helping with memory as well. I mean, some of our memory, it's not, like she said, it's not Alzheimer's versus dementia. Alzheimer's is contributing to dementia. Dementia is the experience you're having. It's the syndrome. It's the brain is not performing as it should. And so anything that we do to help the health of your body overall, calming inflammation, is going to support how your brain shows up. People look like they have dementia and they had a UTI. And when we back that out, they clear their head and they are present again and they're really on point. When we're suffering and fighting something, your ability to show up and be present and be clear-headed, how do you feel after you've had a few nights of bad sleep, right? You don't know where you put your keys. That's not dementia per se. That's right? Dementia is when it's like consistent and it's escalating and it's, happening over and over again. And there's so much we can be done to back that out.
So there's a couple of other questions that have come in. Probiotics is one, but also, did you want to speak on the topic around NSAIDs, NSAIDs, and dementia? So
non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Yeah, they really can mess with your cognition and your quality of sleep. And those, when we're having to lean on Tylenol and Advil and those ones to manage our pain on an ongoing basis, you got to cope. So I sympathize with why we are taking some of these meds we have to take. But do explore and ask, what else could I do to help with the pain I'm experiencing? When we just take an NSAID or something for pain or inflammation, it's a little bit like, stepping on a tack and then just taking Tylenol for the pain. We wouldn't do that, right? We'd try to figure out the source of the pain, take the tack out of our foot, and then we won't need to take the Tylenol or the Advil, right? So whenever you can, try and come to the root cause first, and not just tell the body, shh, stop complaining. That it's complaining because it's trying to tell you something. When you're having joint pain, when you're not pooping, when you have a stomach ache, your body is saying something's not right. Listen to that and don't just suffer in silence. Come ask for help. And if we can do things to back out the reason for the pain, then we can lean less on the pain meds. Because I'll tell you, those pain meds are taxing you. They're giving the liver a load. They're either, or some of them are clearing through the kidneys, like Advil is going to clear through the kidneys and cause that stress. It's going to wear you down, and it comes up and looks like dementia. It does start to contribute to that dementia syndrome. So we want to try and find other ways. And there are other supplements that do help with pain when we can't always take away the reason for the pain. If you've had trauma or an injury, or your body has been put together in a really unique way and something's out of joint, and you're always going to have a pain, like a chronic pain situation, that doesn't mean we can't do other things to quiet how the nerves respond to that pain. Things beyond therapy. Probiotics, yes, we can take them. We don't need to take them all the time. We can feed our bugs and they will feed themselves. Just like you don't always have to put new wildflower seeds down on your garden every summer. The flowers come back if they have food to eat and a place to grow. Same with our bugs. They will come back and they will flourish if they're fed, and fertilized. But every once in a while, it's nice sometimes to just top yourself up, or address the fact that you've been going under a lot of extra stress or wear and tear or antibiotics. And then a good probiotic. I love Living Alchemy as a brand because of the quality of the probiotic and its ability to colonize and settle in. They do some really lovely ones, taken with or without food. So yes, you could top up every once in a while, maybe like a spring cleaning, just sort of make sure you're all at max level, right? Krill oil. Yeah. I mean, I think krill oil is a bit more of a byproduct of something that the fishing industry had an excess of, and they use krill as one way to give you a fish oil. There's some research done where people will be like, oh, krill is like this. But if you're getting a good omega-3 probiotic, supplement, you're getting the key ingredients you really wanted, which is the omega-3 that's in there. Whereas the krill oil is literally just, we squished the oil out of this little fish and got what we got. And so it's not always going to be in concentrations we want. Again, it could come with other stuff we don't necessarily need. So it's not, I don't think that krill is not helpful. I just don't think that it's giving you enough. Any other key ones I'm missing?
I think you answered all the questions that are in the chat.
I'm so happy everybody was able to stick around. I appreciate that. I wanted to do more. Let's do future workshops. Karen and I have been brainstorming and daydreaming about being able to chunk this into like sections of content and maybe doing a little workshop series where we could try and instill one new habit based on some information, send you away, let you mull that over and try it on for a few weeks, then have another workshop where we try on another habit to sort of make those natural stepped shifts so that these things become our new normal.
So that was a question. If people are interested in coming back to a 3 or 4 week series where we break things down, perhaps in the fall, let us know if that would be of interest to you, and we can start looking into that and going a little bit deeper on some of these topics. I just, like I said, there's so much you've shared. A lot of us are going to have to go back and re-listen to your information and pause write down some of the things that you did share. Sometimes,
rapid fire.
It goes fast. But certainly, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Christina directly. She's here as a support to help people. And I think that we can always learn, never stop learning. There's always something to learn for our own health, and especially our brain health. And you really opened my mind to a different way of thinking. I took crazy notes here, but
I had one person just put cookbook in the chat. I do actually do meal plans and such as well. And I did think about giving like a week full of recipes for you that's sort of brain supportive. I just wasn't really able to pull it together as well as I'd hoped, kind of employing those Neuro 9 to make sure you're eating all those foods as you should. But yeah, meal planning would be great. And I do a lot of meal planning with people as well.
Do one-on-one meal planning. Is that
Mhm.
right? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
one-on-one. I mean, I have some quick and ready-made ones, but I do love doing one-on-one because then people's, palates and preferences and specific considerations. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're over time, but I know you have to get back to work at Caresdale Pharmacy, which is a great little place with all health foods and supplements. I thought it was a incredible busy spot for sure. It was busy that day when I was there. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. And again, give us some time. We'll send out the handout and we'll send out the recording to all of you. And thanks for the kind comments in the chat. And
Yeah, thank
again,
you.
Christina, thank you for sharing your knowledge with everyone today. It was so wonderfully presented, and I like your making it easier for us to understand in layman terms, even though you're using lots of big words, but you're trying to give us like your brain needs that, and your brain is talking to you, and whatever those little reminders in an easy to understand way. So thank you.
Thank you.